7 years ago, life felt predictable. I thought I was content, settled into a rhythm that seemed safe if not extraordinary. My wife, Sarah, was the center of that life. I believed she was my partner, my confidant, the person who wanted the same dreams I did. But one night stripped that illusion away forever. I can still see it. The kitchen dimly lit, the air thick with summer humidity, the faint clink of a spoon against porcelain as she stirred her tea without really looking at me. Her face was distant, detached. Then, without warning, she said words that carved me open. "I wish you'd just disappear." No anger. No fight. Just a cold, flat statement. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd misheard, but the emptiness in her eyes told me I hadn't. My instinct was to argue, to beg, to salvage the life we had built. But her silence was louder than anything I could say. The woman I thought I knew had already checked out. The warmth, the intimacy, the sense of being chosen, it was gone. So, piece by piece, I began to fade. Not physically at first. I still went to work, still came home, still slept in that same house. But inside I withdrew. I stopped wasting energy on her moods, her jabs, the small battles that had drained me for years. Instead, I poured myself into something else, myself. I left before she woke, came back long after she was asleep, and in those hours, I started constructing a new version of me. At first it was survival. Then it became transformation. I sought out challenges that once intimidated me. I invested time in learning, in travel, in conversations with people who opened my mind wider than it had ever been. Cities I had only seen on maps became real. Strangers became friends, mentors, allies. I built skills, wealth, and a life that existed far beyond Sarah's narrow vision. Meanwhile, she believed her words had broken me. She acted as if cutting me down was her victory. She laughed louder, strutted freer, made it clear she thought I was nothing without her shadow. For her, my silence meant defeat. For me, it was the quiet of a man sharpening himself for something greater. 7 years passed. 7 years of rebuilding. 7 years of stepping into a version of myself she could never have dreamed of. And then fate placed us in the same place again. I had returned to our hometown for business. Nothing personal, no intention of seeking her out. I was standing outside a cafe, flipping through documents, when I felt her eyes on me. I looked up, and there she was across the street, frozen mid-step. Her expression was unguarded. Shock washed over her face, her lips parted, her eyes wide. The man she had wished away wasn't gone. He had become someone she couldn't recognize. Stronger, sharper, untouchable. She didn't move at first. Just stood there, as though the ground beneath her had cracked. Everything she had told herself for years, every excuse she had made to justify discarding me, seemed to collapse in that instant. Finally, she edged closer, almost unwillingly, like gravity had pulled her toward me. "Daniel," she whispered, my name caught in her throat. I looked at her, calm and steady. She searched my face for something familiar, some trace of the man she had left behind. But he wasn't there. That man had been remade. Then a man appeared at her side. I didn't need introductions. Her new partner, I assumed. He sensed the tension, straightened his back, but I didn't even acknowledge him. His presence didn't matter. Compared to the storm between Sarah and me, he was nothing more than background noise. You've changed," she stammered. "You look successful." I let a faint smile curl my lips. "There's a lot you never knew." Her eyes flickered with something between awe and regret. She tried to hold her ground, but the tremor in her hand betrayed her. She turned briefly to her companion, then back to me, as though suddenly aware of how small he seemed in comparison. What have you been doing all this time?" she asked, voice trembling. I leaned casually against a lamppost, giving her nothing but silence. And in that silence she understood everything. The years had not destroyed me. They had forged me. Her companion shifted, uncomfortable, sensing his own irrelevance. Sarah's composure cracked. Her voice broke softer now, uncertain. I didn't realize what I lost. The words hung between us, but they carried no weight anymore. Once they might have been enough to pull me back, to give me hope. Not now. I met her eyes and said simply, "I survived without you." She flinched as if the truth itself had struck her. For the first time, she looked afraid. Not of me, but of the life she had forfeited and the realization that she could never reclaim it. "You've done all this without me?" she whispered. I nodded. "Without your doubts. Without your judgment. Without your betrayal. And I am better for it." Her lips quivered. For a fleeting second, I almost saw the Sarah I once loved, the one who had laughed freely and promised forever. But that woman was gone. Standing before me now was only the shell left behind. Regretful, broken, desperate. She lowered her head, her voice barely audible. "I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," I replied evenly. "This isn't about words. It's about truth. I built a life while you chased illusions. I became stronger, happier, unstoppable. And you learned too late what you let go of." Her silence was the final answer. The power she once held over me was gone, dismantled not by confrontation, but by the life I had chosen to build without her. As she walked away with her head bowed, I felt no bitterness, no gloating, just peace. 7 years of absence had crystallized into this moment, proof that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in retaliation, but in thriving beyond the reach of the people who tried to diminish you. The man she had wished would disappear was gone. In his place stood someone far greater, and nothing she could say, no apology or tear, would ever change that truth.